Hello everyone and welcome back to Dreadline Stories. I know many of you use these videos to fall asleep, so before you drift off, I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from around the world. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video.
I took the job out of desperation. It was November 2019 and I'd just been laid off from the mill in Spokane. Bills were eating me alive, so when a buddy mentioned a temp position maintaining radio relay towers in remote Alaska, I jumped at it. The contract was 6 weeks long, isolated. Just me and a rotating set of old, snow-covered towers scattered across the Wrangell Mountains. They gave me a snowmobile, a sat phone, and a cabin to crash in between rounds. The only rule, check in with dispatch every 24 hours, no exceptions. The first week was fine. Lonely, but fine. I liked the quiet, the way the snow muffled everything. Some nights I sat outside on the porch of the cabin just listening to the stillness. But by day 9, something started to feel off. It was the 4th tower on the North Loop. I was doing a routine check. The antenna wiring had iced over, so I knocked it free and ran a diagnostic. All systems green. But as I was packing up, I noticed footprints. Not mine. Not animal either. Bare human feet. In the snow. Tiny, like a child's. At first, I thought maybe I was imagining things. Snow can do weird things with shadows. But the prints were too clear. 10 toes, shallow impressions, leading around the side of the tower into the trees. I followed them for maybe 20 feet before they just stopped. No signs of struggle. No melting, just gone. I radioed it in, but dispatch said weather might have warped the snow. Still, they told me to log it. So I did. That night, I couldn't sleep. Something kept tapping at the window. Not a knock, a tap. Delicate, like fingernails. But every time I looked, there was nothing there. Then came the voices. It started around 3 a.m., low at first, like wind rustling through pine. But there was rhythm to it, syllables, something being spoken or chanted. I stepped outside with a flashlight, convinced some drunk snowmobilers had wandered up the mountain. But the second I opened the door, the cold hit me. Not just Alaska cold. This was different, like something had vacuumed all the heat out of the world. My breath fogged the beam of the flashlight as I scanned the tree line. Nothing, just endless snow and pine. I was about to go back in when I heard it again, clearer this time. A child's voice. "Why did you wake us, Roy D?" I slammed the cabin door and locked it, heart pounding. I must have stood there for 10 minutes, gripping the rifle they issued me. Mostly for bears, they said. Not this. But nothing else happened that night. The next morning, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe I'd dreamed the whole thing. Sleep deprivation does strange things. I skipped the North Loop that day and checked towers further west. I didn't mention anything to dispatch. Didn't want to sound crazy. But on my way back to the cabin that evening, I saw something that stopped me cold. The footprints were back. Only this time, they weren't alone. There were dozens, small, bare feet in the snow, scattered around the cabin like children had been playing or circling. They went right up to the walls, the porch, even the fuel drums. No animal prints, no adult boots, no melting. That night, the tapping didn't come. Instead, I heard breathing. Inside the cabin. Slow, shallow, just a few feet from where I slept under thick wool blankets. I couldn't bring myself to turn over. I just laid there, listening, eyes wide, counting every breath that wasn't mine. And then, it spoke. "You walked where they sleep." I turned, rifle raised. Nothing. No one there. But the front door was wide open, snow blowing in, and in the middle of the floor, a handprint. Small, wet, human. The sat phone was dead, not low battery. Dead. My snowmobile wouldn't start. I spent the entire day hauling fuel and checking wires, but it was like the cold had drained everything. And every time I stepped outside, I'd see them. out in the trees. Figures, child-sized, unmoving, just standing between the pines, always the same distance no matter how far I walked. Watching. Silent. By nightfall, I decided to abandon the post and hike to the nearest outpost, 20 miles south. I packed a bag, loaded my rifle, and stepped out into the cold. They didn't stop me. In fact, they cleared a path. Through the thick snow, a line of open, untouched trail led straight down the slope. I didn't question it. I just walked. But halfway down, I realized where it was taking me. Back to the tower. Back to the place with the footprints. And there, waiting in the snow at the base of the tower, was a small wooden box I'd never seen before. Inside, a child's shoe. Frozen blood along the sole. The wind screamed through the trees, and far off, above it all, came a sound I'll never forget. Laughter. Dozens of small, cold voices, laughing. They call it ghost season up here. February through early March. Long nights, short tempers. Your mind turns soft from the lack of sunlight and the constant humming of the generators. It's the time of year people either quit or go missing. I was a radio tech, stationed at a remote repeater site 60 miles east of Bethel. Just me, a diesel shack, and a squat concrete shelter buried under a mound of snow. My job was simple. Monitor transmissions, log signal strength, report anomalies. The site was autonomous 99% of the time. But 2 days into my rotation, I started picking up something new. It began as a faint clicking sound, not Morse code, not digital packet noise, organic, like teeth chattering or bone tapping on bone. I logged it and moved on. Could have been wind vibration on the antenna. But then it started answering me. I keyed the mic on day 4 and said, Station 17 to base. Verify if secondary relay is emitting. Static. Then, click, click, pause, click, click, click. I leaned back. The reply hadn't come from any base station. The audio quality was different. Hollow, like someone speaking through a long metal pipe buried deep underground. The clicks continued every night. Always the same rhythm, like it was learning to speak. On the 7th night, it stopped, and that was somehow worse. The generator shut off around 2:13 a.m. I remember the exact time because I was in the middle of logging a satellite alignment report when every light blinked out at once. Silence followed, not just the absence of sound, but a vacuum of it. No wind, no creaks, no hum from the power line. I stepped outside with my flashlight. The snow around the repeater dish was gone. Not melted, gone. A perfect circular pit about 30 feet across dug into the tundra. The metal tower above it was shaking gently, like something had brushed it from beneath. Then my flashlight caught something in the pit. A hole, 4 feet wide, perfectly round, blacker than anything I've ever seen. And just above it, steam rising in thin, constant tendrils. I backed away. Then my radio crackled. Not static, not noise. A voice. My voice saying, "Don't go. They're not finished with you yet." I stood at the edge of the pit, my own voice still echoing through the radio. "Don't go. They're not finished with you yet." My hands were shaking. I turned the volume knob down until the hiss disappeared entirely, like that would somehow unmake what I'd heard. I needed to get back inside, fire up the backup generator, radio for evac. But the door to the shelter was wide open. I never leave that door open. You don't out here. Heat is survival. That was the first rule they drilled into us in Anchorage before sending us into the bush. Always seal the warm air in. I stepped back into the shelter slowly, flashlight trembling in my grip. No tracks in the snow, no signs of forced entry. Just that same smell again, faint, metallic, like rusted iron or old blood. The backup generator was still intact. I pulled the cord. Click, click, click. No ignition. I tried again. Same sound, only louder. Then I realized it wasn't the generator making the noise. It was coming from the hole in the ground outside. I slammed the shelter door and locked it, even knowing how pointless that was. Thick steel and reinforced bolts won't stop what moves through Earth. I braced a shelf against the door anyway. Human instinct. If you can't fight it, at least pretend you can. I sat in the dark, clutching the flashlight, watching the beam flicker as the batteries started to die. That's when I saw it. In the back corner, near the radio rig, something was moving. A pale hand reached out from behind the metal cabinet, but it wasn't reaching for me. It was dragging itself away, like it didn't want to be seen. I moved toward it, slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. Then I heard it whisper, not words, breathing, wet and rattling. I rounded the cabinet, and I found myself lying there on the floor in the same clothes, same coat, skin pale, lips blue, eyes wide open, staring at me. I was looking at my own corpse. Its mouth twitched. It opened, and in a voice just barely like mine, it whispered, "You're already inside it." That's when the floor began to shake. The shaking stopped as suddenly as it started. I turned around. The shelter walls weren't walls anymore. They were slick, pulsing flesh. My breath froze midair, but the cold wasn't from outside. It was coming from the inside out, like something ancient had swallowed the camp whole and was just now beginning to digest. I ran to the door, only there was no door, just a long tunnel of ice-coated bone stretching endlessly in both directions, and from deep within it, echoing like whale song through a frozen throat, came the voice again. But this time, it didn't sound like me. "You shouldn't have looked into the hole." I dropped the flashlight. It hit the floor, and the floor blinked. You ever been so far out into the cold that it starts whispering to you? I took a winter research job with the NOAA in early 2021. They needed someone to monitor atmospheric pressure and temperature anomalies in a remote section of the Brooks Range. Real quiet, unpopulated terrain, even by Alaskan standards. The station was just a two-person setup, about 60 miles west of Anaktivuk Pass. It wasn't my first stint in isolation. I liked it that way. But this time, something was off. My partner was a guy named Reynolds, ex-Forest Service, serious, no nonsense. We flew in on a supply chopper, dropped with 3 weeks of rations, a generator, and an old-fashioned HF radio for emergencies. Just us, the snow, and 2 steel prefab units bolted into permafrost. One for sleeping, one for data logging. The first week was routine, cold, clean air, northern lights like brush strokes in the sky. Data came in steady, everything normal. Then the dreams started. It wasn't just nightmares. I'd wake up drenched in sweat despite the sub-zero air, my ears ringing with voices, raspy, echoing things that didn't use words. I chalked it up to stress, altitude, even vitamin D deficiency. But Reynolds, he was hearing them too. Only he didn't talk about it. Just stared longer than normal out the tiny window, like something was watching the station from out in the white. On the 8th night, I woke up to the emergency beacon blaring. Not the standard NOAA alarm. This was the old Cold War-era klaxon that only activated if someone manually triggered it. I rushed out in my thermals, boots half-laced, and found Reynolds outside, staring into the dark. "You hit the alarm," I yelled. He didn't answer. Just stood motionless, eyes locked on the tree line maybe 300 yards out. I followed his gaze. At first, I saw nothing, just wind and falling snow. Then, movement. A figure, no gear, no coat, standing still against the wind. "Jesus Christ," I muttered. "Is that a person?" Reynolds finally turned to me. His face was pale. "He's been standing there for an hour," he whispered. "I thought it was you at first. That thing. It wasn't shivering, didn't flinch in the wind, just stared, and then it moved. But not toward us. It walked sideways, perfectly sideways, as if it was on a track. No snow, kicked up. No footprints left behind. Reynolds backed away slowly and said something I'll never forget. "This is their ground, not ours." I didn't sleep that night. Neither did Reynolds. We stayed holed up inside the equipment module, lights on, full, rifles loaded. Not that either of us knew what we'd even be shooting at. That thing, person, shadow, hallucination, whatever, never came closer. But we kept seeing it, just on the edge of visibility. Always in the corner of your eye, where the wind shifted snow just enough to reveal a silhouette standing perfectly still, watching, then gone. By morning, Reynolds had packed his gear. "I'm hiking out," he said flatly, tying his boots like it was any other day. "I've done the math. If I follow the ridge line southwest, I can hit the maintenance road in 3 days, maybe less." "You can't hike out here. It's -30 at night," I argued. That thing could be anything. A white bear, optical illusion, even infrasound messing with us. Reynolds didn't look up. "It knows we're here. It's waiting for something." I tried to stop him, but there was a calm in his voice that terrified me more than his panic would have. The kind of quiet you hear in people right before they jump. He left just after noon. I watched him go until he was a black dot swallowed by white. That night, I locked both modules, deadbolted the doors, barricaded the window with supply crates. Still, the whispering came, louder now, not just in dreams. I heard someone walking on the roof around 3 a.m. Slow, deliberate, crunch, pause, crunch. I held my breath, not even daring to reach for the rifle by my cot. If whatever it was wanted in, it wouldn't need the door. Then, nothing. Just silence. Except it wasn't really silence. The air inside the shelter felt pressurized, like being underwater. My ears popped. The temperature dropped. And then, scratching, inside the wall, just 4 feet from where I lay, something scraped along the aluminum siding from within. Not rat-like, not panicked, measured. Fingernails, long ones. I curled against the far wall, staring into the dark until I passed out from exhaustion. The next day, I found a trail of footprints. Humans, barefoot. But here's the thing. They were coming from the inside of the station and walking away, only one set. I tore through both shelters, panicking, trying to understand. The door had never opened. No damage, no sign of forced entry. But the prints were there, burned slightly into the top layer of ice, steaming faintly in the cold morning air like they'd just been made. And at the edge of the camp, I found something worse. Reynolds' parka, just his coat, neatly folded, sitting atop a clean patch of snow. No footprints leading to it. None leading away. Just the wind.